Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. Tonight we are recapping the week's nerdy news from Belle, Reve prison to Asteroid M and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me as always is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know this week. There's a dearth of things that have been concrete this week, but one thing that was concrete is that we're going to be getting a lot more news very soon.
Yes, we're going to be back up and running pretty soon. More on that in a moment. Just want to say that, yes, we do have a pretty tremendous update about the strike. We're talking about some DCU, James Gunn, talking about the future of the DCU a little bit. We got some Marvel news. I feel like we haven't had Marvel news in a while, and this isn't really, it's not huge news, but it's big. It's not, I don't know. We haven't heard anything in a while.
Speculative Marvel.
Yeah. Couple small Star Wars things, some comics news, some comics reviews. But got to start it off with a little bit of business. This podcast is, as always, sponsored by Funky Town Comics in Camillus, New York. Sorry, Funky Town Comics and vinyl. I often don't say and vinyl. They have an excellent vinyl section there as well.
And a lot of toys.
People out there. And tons of toys. They probably were like, we probably shouldn't call ourselves Funky Town Comics and vinyl and toys. That's like too many, right?
Yeah.
Too many
It's
things.
A lot of ands.
But they have all those things. And more. This... was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday night. Yep. Tuesday night, October 3rd. They're doing a midnight release of the new Transformers #1. I'm holding an advanced copy here in my hand. I'm going to give an in-depth review of it for you later in this very show. Transformers #1 by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. It's a brand new kickoff to a brand new series, a brand new canon for the comics of Transformers. Spoiler alert for my review later. It's great. This is a great book. And I think Funky Town is right to have chosen this book to do a midnight release for. It's very cool. We know there's a lot of rabid Transformers fans out there. So if you are excited about the debut comic, you can go to a midnight release at Funky Town Comics in Camillus. It's going to start at 9 o'clock and go until midnight. And you can get an advanced copy of Transformers #1. They have a lot of different variant covers. They were kind of had them on display this week leading up to big night, October 3rd. Check it out. If you're a Transformers fan, you want the new comic that, again, is good. More on that later.
So would you say it's more than meets the eye?
Yes, I would say that they're robots in disguise.
Okay.
And they are more than meets the eye.
Fair enough.
For sure.
You know, I did hear also that Tuesday may be a really, really big night.
Yes. Yeah. Big night for us because I do plan on going to the midnight release of Transformers at Funky Town Comics. However, before that, Steve, you and I are going to be together sitting in a room with two of our buddies watching the season finale of Star Wars Ahsoka show. Ashoka. I guess we could have been calling it Ashoka the whole time.
If we were going for the portmanteaus we were at the beginning, that would have been a slam dunk.
Or Ahsoka Shoka. Something like that we could have done. Too late. And as soon as we're done watching that episode, we're going to do a live reaction to it with the two of us and our two friends, friend of the show, Matt Paseda, who was on last week's episode because I couldn't make it, the reaction to episode 7. And our close friend, Adam Karki, who's a big Star Wars fan as well. They'll be joining us for our immediate reaction and review of the finale of Ahsoka. So check that out. And you can watch it live on YouTube or you can listen to it later in your podcast feed. If you're going to watch it live, just like me, when you're done watching it, you can head on over to Funky Town Comics and grab yourself a copy of Transformers #1 for their midnight release.
Absolutely.
So you're right, Steve. It is going to be a big night, at least in our little realm of nerdery. Big night for us. For sure.
High action in the Camillus nerdery scene on Tuesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, shout out to Adam and Matt for joining us on Tuesday night. Shout out to Matt for covering for me on last week's Ahsoka review, and shout out to Steve. I feel like I'm mute most of the time. I'm the social media guy, but our social media has been very Steve heavy this past week. A couple unboxing videos with you.
Well, I had
Plus
to do
you were
something when I got that in. For anyone not
oh
watching
yeah,
the
there it is.
video, the my Savi's lightsaber showed up from shipping it home from Disney,
Yeah.
and I couldn't do anything but say, you know what, let's videotape this because people need to see what I mean. Props to Disney; they really packed that thing in there pretty good.
Oh, good. Yeah, I probably should have done that when I got mine. I was just too excited to even think about anything else, like setting up a camera. Like, congrats to you for having more, the wherewithal to think I should probably film this and get something out of it. But nope, not me. I just tore it open, started playing with it.
Yeah, and then
So
also did an unboxing down at Funky Town for some of the comics I had sent in to get graded.
that's right.
CBCS had sent the box back a couple weeks ago, and Jesse was like, "Yeah, you should come down and we'll take a look at it all together." So we did that, and you can check them out on our Instagram, and I believe both of them are up on our YouTube as well. So yeah,
Yep,
check
that's
them
right.
out.
That's right. Check them out anywhere. Also, real quick before we dive in, it is officially October 1st, officially spooky season. Happy spooky season to one and all that may be listening. The spooky season novices usually start October 1st. I've been celebrating since early September. But anyway, everybody's welcome. Welcome to spooky season here on the
Oh,
Multiverse Report.
My 6-year-old officially wants to turn our house into a. He's like, "Can we turn it into the haunted mansion?" It's like I have many years behind the curve. We'll just go over to your buddy's house and see.
Yeah,
see
come
his
over to
house.
my house when it's closer to the party day, end
Yeah.
of October.
Yep.
My wife and I throw a huge Halloween party every year, and I decorate my house like an insane person.
And it
So
always looks
yeah.
really good.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that. Already, I've been planning this year's for months.
I was gonna say that had to have been. It's
Yeah.
been in the bag for
Yep.
a while now.
Yeah, I got a lot of work to do. I'll say I got a lot of work to do. Speaking of work, I know there's a bunch of people that are back at it as of last Wednesday because the Writers Guild of America strike has ended. We reported last week they were in the midst of new negotiations, and we were going to hear how those negotiations went. Apparently, very positively. Not only is the strike over and negotiations ended, the writers got pretty much everything that they wanted.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, every report that I read didn't, there was no point of like, well, but they didn't get this, or well, that this is what they really. But every demand seemed to have been met by these studios, despite the studios starting this whole thing off by saying these demands are unreasonable and insane. We could never accommodate. Like, oh, never? Okay, how about just like 148 days later, you
Right.
can accommodate?
Yeah.
Seems like it was pretty simple for you after you started to hemorrhage money. So specifically, what did they get? They got guaranteed minimum amount of writers hired on every show, something they were pushing for. Comedy and variety writers are getting paid the same for streaming as they are for TV. Apparently, that was a difference.
I think
they're getting
I think that was one of the reasons why you started seeing a bunch of like comedy shows pop up on Netflix and whatnot, as opposed to the HBO domain that they used to be in, was that they could get produced a lot cheaper for the streaming platforms.
Right, that makes sense. Makes sense. They're getting better pay. They're getting better pensions. They're getting better health care for all writing teams. For the first time ever, there's going to be script fees for staff writers, like specific scripting fees instead of like a general, you're being paid to work on this show. But like if you're getting this episode, you're getting an additional bump of money, I believe. Big one, protections against AI. AI, artificial intelligence, cannot be used to write scripts, edit scripts, or undermine the writer's rights and or the credits of writers. I think I read somewhere that like a writer can decide to use AI to write a script if they want. I don't know why they would want to do that, but it's a possibility, but it's not mandatory. So I think the studios were really hoping that they could save a ton of money, like, evil people, and just pay machines to do the jobs of human beings. But that's impossible. Can't do that now. And probably possibly the biggest one besides the AI, or right up there with the AI at least, is success-based residuals. For the first time in the history of streaming, the more times a show or movie is streamed on a streaming service or watched on a streaming service, the writer that created it will make more money.
Mm.
That seems like a, an obvious thing that should have been happening the whole time. But no, it is now though. And it's never happened before. So congratulations to the WGA and all the writers that now have had their demands met. And again, shame on the studios for saying these things are impossible and then just doing them anyway, a couple months later. Other big news, SAG-AFTRA is sitting down at negotiation table again this week with the AMPTP. So we will see if they are able to get a similar deal. Something tells me that the fact that they ended the WGA strike and found a negotiating date with SAG-AFTRA like so soon after is like, okay, we're just going to get this done. We're going to give them what they want.
Right.
We are billionaires. We can't afford it. They are right. Let's just do it so we can start making some money again.
And I think we talked about that earlier, where it was kind of foretold that as soon as like WGA or whoever came to an agreement first, the dominoes were going to start falling, because there's no way the studios are going to want, hey, we can get them writing scripts again, but nobody can act on them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you might as well like give it a go, and if they acquiesce to what the writers wanted, it's going to be a no-brainer that they're going to at least give a solid offer to, or come to the table with the actors, because they need to keep producing things.
Yeah, my guess is that it'll just be quick.
Yeah,
they'll just
whether it's this round
what they
or
want
like
to be done.
Something else coming up in another couple weeks or whatever, like it's gonna get happening.
Yeah, I did hear that a lot of the studios are forming some kind of I don't remember what the term for it was, like a lobbying group to be able to like talk about what's the word I'm looking for, like advocate for like their rights or whatever with laws, like with like politicians. Basically it seems like they're just gonna like lobby and probably buy off politicians to be able to continue to be notoriously skeevy behind the scenes.
Standard lobbying behavior.
Standard lobbying behavior.
But that's gonna be its own animal. But at least we'll be able to get a lot of people that have been out of work for a while back to work, and doing things to make all of us happy.
Yes, for sure.
The source of all our entertainment is coming back, and they got what they wanted.
Yeah.
So I think we should all be happy for them.
I agree. Congratulations to the WGA. Hoping the best for SAG-AFTRA. Hoping to hear some news about that next week. By next week when we do the show, we'll see.
God, what do we do when we don't have Strike Watch to lead this off? That's like when we ended Flash Watch. We're just like, how do we start this?
I think we just start talking about news, right? It's just a thing we do. I don't
do
remember what we did before Strike Watch and Flash Watch, because Strike Watch and Flash Watch overlapped.
Right.
So when Flash Watch was over, we already had Strike Watch to talk about, and now we don't have a watch. What watch? We need a watch.
Right. I feel like
we need something to watch.
Yeah, we're now in the dark times before the Empire.
Yeah. So but bright times for news, as already I think these first two stories we're going to talk about, a DC story and a Marvel story, came out because the writer's strike had ended and people could start talking about stuff. One of those people being James Gunn.
Yeah, almost like we exactly said, hey, as soon as this is signed on the dotted line, he's going to spout off stuff.
We're going to start hearing stuff, because he hadn't been responding to fans, because he couldn't. There's nothing really he could say. And a lot of people were throwing shade at James Gunn for being quiet about, like, he didn't come out and, like, endorse the writer's strike or the actor. He didn't side with the writers, didn't side with the actors. But, and of course, he is in the Writers Guild. There's no way that he didn't side with the right. Like, there's no way that he didn't. He's a member of that guild. But also, with his new position at Warner Brothers, he's an executive at the same time. And I think he's forbidden to speak on behalf of that, because he's an executive just out of the gate. So it's not that, I'm pretty sure if he wasn't an executive at Warner Brothers, he would have been talking about it. And I can't imagine him not being fully on the side of the unions in this case.
Yeah.
But anyway, Now that it's over, or the writer's strike is over, he can start responding to fan questions again, like he so much likes to do. This was a response to a fan on Threads, social media platform that I am not a part of, neither is the Multiverse Report.
Is that the new
This fan,
Facebook-y one?
that's
The
the
Facebook, Twitter?
Instagram. Yeah, well, I guess Instagram and Facebook are
Yeah.
owned by the same thing, so it's the
Meta?
Instagram's version of Twitter. Yes, yeah. Stupid name. So this fan was threading. I guess I don't know what you call
Sewing?
a post on Threads. Sewing. Yeah, this fan was sewing at James Gunn, and said that he was confused about the canon, the continuity of the DCU moving forward. I don't know how many times James Gunn can say it starts with Creature Commandos and then really takes off with Superman Legacy. He said that a million times. I'm not sure how people can be confused really of when it starts. Like that's when it starts. I guess people are wondering about, because he did say that Zola Maraduena is moving forward as Blue Beetle, so that is up in the air as far as like, well, then is Blue Beetle in canon? Is Blue Beetle continuity? Like, what's going on? So fan was asking about it, and Gunn responded by saying, "Nothing is canon until Creature Commandos next year, a sort of aperitif to the DCU, and then a deeper dive into the universe with Superman Legacy. After that, it's a very human drive to want to understand everything all the time. But I think it's okay to be confused on what's happening in the DCU since no one has seen anything from the DCU yet." Went on to say, "And yes, some actors will be playing characters they've played in other stories, and some plot points might be consistent with plot points from the dozens of films, shows, and animated projects that have come from DC in the past. But nothing is canon until Creature Commandos and Legacy." More on that in a second.
They couldn't
And
just
then,
come out and say, "Hey, we're gonna Disney this," and like start calling everything else Legends.
right. Well, he's kind of murky on that. He doesn't specifically say, and that's where I think.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the thing is, I guess that's half the thing of what Disney did was like everything is now back behind, like anything that happened before the Disney acquisition is now Legends, and they're bringing stuff in and they're using some of the threads from the past
Yeah.
and some of the plot points, but now nothing's canon until they remake it canon. And it seems
Until
like
they
that's
decide
the
it's
same kind of
canon.
thing that Gunn's doing with this.
I kind of agree. I think that confused DC fans would do well to look at Lucasfilm and Star Wars with that exact example that you just gave, if they're having trouble figuring out what to do. I do think that what he just said is a little confusing, though.
Yeah.
But I'll go back out in a sec because I want to finish up that he said. Then, like, he responded to a fan. Then within this thread, a fan asked about the status of Blue Beetle specifically because he had said that the character is the first DCU character because he's going to be moving on. So it has gotten a little confusing. And Gunn has said, "Zola Maraduena will continue playing Blue Beetle in the DCU as Viola Davis will Amanda Waller and John Cena will Peacemaker." So this is the first time, besides, he's mentioned Zola Maraduena a number of times as being continuing on. And we have always assumed it would be Viola Davis because they've announced the Waller show, and we've assumed it would be John Cena because they've announced Peacemaker Season 2, and he said that Peacemaker Season 2 is still happening. So, but this is the first time he has said these three people are moving on. These three people for sure are going on. He doesn't say that these are the only people moving on.
Right. It's just confirmation that at least these three are.
That at least these three, because he certainly, I mean, the biggest thing here is kind of like everyone's jumping that he mentioned these three.
Yep.
But then you're, okay, well, he didn't say Gal Gadot. Didn't say, Margot Robbie. He didn't say Jason Momoa.
Right. Where there's been rumors around all three of those, yay or nay.
Coming and going, yeah, I know, yeah. So I think that's interesting. I think it's good. I think it's interesting. I think we'll get more. Well, obviously, we're going to get more as things move on or things progress. Like, we don't know what half of his plans are yet. So we're going to get more information, and things will begin to solidify. I think DC fans are just feeling impatient because there has been and will be this long gap between him announcing what he's doing. One, him getting the job. Two, him announcing half of Chapter 1. And then it's still going to be at least 2 years, probably more now because of the strikes, before we even get Superman Legacy.
Right.
We'll get Creature Commandos in the meantime, but like how much is that really going to tell us? Because it's an 8-episode animated series.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, two things
who
on
knows?
that. You have playing on what we were talking about earlier, using some, not using some, whatever. Uh, the announcements that Cholo Marduena, Viola Davis, and John Cena will continue track with what Brian Rollins said in the chat. They just need to come out and say, if it sucks, it's not canon. If it's good, it's canon. So that effectively, like, I mean, that
Oh, that's
100%
funny.
tracks with those three being recast or as
Yeah.
continued casting.
Yes.
And some of the ones we haven't heard about that that
Yeah.
have not been announced. And
Yeah. True.
yeah, I mean, the other thing is he needs Gunn is going to continue and continue and continue to answer these questions for almost one reason and one reason alone, that there's still Aquaman coming out and people are still confused
Yes.
as to what's happening and when and all this. And when
I
you have
think
this coming out, it really is throwing a wrench in a lot of what he's trying to set up, I think.
I agree. I think we're probably. I think after Aquaman,
Yeah.
maybe early 2024, we'll probably get a more definitive. I don't know. Maybe we'll get more definitive information. It's possible that we're even waiting. He's waiting until Aquaman comes out to announce the second half of Chapter 1.
To kind of get the hype,
Um,
get the narrative off of Aquaman, maybe.
yeah. Well, or just like let Aquaman come out, see how it does, and like let that be a movie by itself, and then be like, okay, now that Aquaman's done, here's what we're doing moving forward. Here's the rest of Chapter 1.
Yeah.
Here's who's moving on. Here's who's not. Get ready for this, I wouldn't be surprised if they're waiting till like January or February to do that. I think the confusing part of this quote is that when he says some plot points might be consistent with plot points from the dozens of film shows, animated projects that have come from DC in the past. I think a lot of DC fans see that or read that and immediately are thinking of films, the Snyderverse, the stuff that hasn't, worked or whatever, and they're thinking like, "Oh, well, how are we supposed to if it's a, it should be a reboot if it's I don't think he means like I mean, okay, clearly I think like if John Cena is going to be doing Peacemaker, I think Peacemaker season 1 still happened. Probably the Suicide Squad still happened.
Right.
Like that those are events that happened.
Or at least
But I
most
think
beats from those. Like, yeah.
yes. But I think most of what he's saying, like the dozens of film shows and animated projects that have come from DC in the past, he's talking about all of it. He's not just talking about the,
Oh, yeah.
the
He could be
post
talking-
Christopher Nolan since
Yeah.
Man of Steel
He
Snyderverse
could be talking
movies. He's
Batman
talking about
89.
yes, he's talking about everything. So I think when he's saying like plot points will be consistent, I think he means things like Bruce Wayne's parents got murdered in an alley.
Right.
Kal-El fell from Krypton in a rocket and was raised by the Kents. Like things like that. Like things that are hallmarks of DC Universe, DC canon in general. I think those are what he's talking about. I don't think he's talking about Henry Cavill was Superman, but now he looks different. I don't think that's what he means by that at all.
Right.
I think
mean,
he just
I-
means like just
Yeah.
general DC Universe stuff will be consistent with general DC Universe stuff that we've already seen in the past. They're not
Right.
a complete reinvention of Bruce Wayne's origin story or anything
No,
like
or
that.
like if they bring Penguin in and his lair happens to look like the one in Batman 89 or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Little
Yes.
pieces and fits and starts similar to what we're seeing with Disney using legends and whatnot as a basis, but not they're picking and choosing what they want to use, and the rest is whatever it is.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be some great reinventions of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Wonder Woman's going to come from an island called Themyscira and
Yeah.
all that kind of
And
stuff.
I'm
like
sure
there's-
all of those reinventions of stuff, there will be plenty of nerds crying foul over they screwed everything
Sure.
up, because there always is.
There always is. There's always a reason to be upset.
Mhm.
Always reason to be upset. But then you know what? Then you go back to all the dozens of films and shows and animated projects that have come from DC in the past, and you can watch those if you like those better. That's
Right.
fine. It's all right. That's what I've had to do with a lot of the Snyder movies that I haven't loved. Like, okay, this movie exists and I'll watch it a couple times, but I'd rather just watch Batman the Animated Series or, something else that scratches that itch a little bit better.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
Very interested to see what we hear from James Gunn in the coming weeks, especially after the SAG-AFTRA strike is settled. How quickly will we get more announcements on who's playing who in Superman Legacy?
I'm putting money
Who's
on it being about as quick as the news came out about this next bit of information.
immediately?
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah, that was that was a real quick drop as soon as
I
as soon
know.
as
Why do you think it was so quick? Do you think it was just like Marvel? Well, I mean, Marvel hasn't even confirmed this. This is from Deadline.
right.
So,
I think Deadline was sitting on it and was like, well, might as well throw it out there now.
yeah, I guess. In case anyone wants to give a quote, now they can.
Right.
If there's going to be a writer going into pitch, Marvel Studios is going to begin taking pitches from writers on their X-Men film, according to Deadline. Marvel will start setting writer meetings later this fall for pitches on its anticipated X-Men movie. There is apparently no rush to fill this position since there's no date for this film. There's no plan. It's not part of their infrastructure leading up to Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. It's more likely that a decision will be made in early 2024. So it's a few months away from hearing anything more about this, I would think. But Steve, what was interesting to me about the way this headline is phrased and the way the story is reported is that Deadline is saying that Marvel is going to meet with writers to hear pitches on an X-Men movie. Now, it has been my assumption for a while that the majority of Marvel MCU movies aren't pitches from writers as much as there is like a Kevin Feige-led story group saying, this is what's happening after this movie, and then this movie goes into this movie, so this has to be the plot of this movie. This has to be the plot of this movie. So I was very surprised by that, and I was kind of feeling energized and encouraged about what could happen with an X-Men movie because of that. Because if you're taking pitches from writers, you're going down the road of like a James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like a Black Panther. Something that had like a real like voice behind it and idea, passion behind it. So I don't know. But I was also surprised to hear that, but it was a very welcome surprise, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's something where Marvel knows they need to get X-Men right
Yeah,
because they're doing whatever they're doing all around, wallowing in various I don't want to say mediocrity because a lot of what they've put out I've thought has been fine, but also like box office wise, they're wallowing in mediocrity
Yep.
compared to their other products.
Yeah.
And X-Men is, I mean, it's a good chunk of the reason why you get that Fox merger back and all sorts of other things that leads to dominoes to fall later on in your do you want to continue this cash cow? Because
Right.
X-Men and Fantastic Four are kind of your next two big, like, we can still do these and still make them good. And
Yeah.
if they don't, then it's not a great look. So I'm kind of glad they're taking pitches on them.
I'm very glad they're doing it. And I mean, the other thing there is that I'm sure that they want to find an idea and a story that feels different from what we've seen before.
Yeah.
And we've seen, how many X-Men movies are there? 10?
Somewhere around there, probably. If you count, do you count
gotta
the
be-
Wolverine ones or no?
If you count the Wolverine ones, count the Deadpool ones, there's got to be like 10 or 15 X-Men movies, right?
Yeah, I think
There's
going,
like
going from the
6
top. You've got the original. You've got X2. You've got Last Stand.
X. Yep.
You've got
And
Wolverine.
even in just in that
Origins
series, then you have
for
Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. So that's like 6 just X-Men movies.
and First Class.
straight up. And First Class. Yeah,
So
you're right. So
7.
7 X-Men movies,
7 X-Men
3
titled movies. You have New Mutants.
3 Wolverine movies,
3 Wolverine movies.
So that's
11.
10, 11,
And then 2 Deadpools.
2 Deadpools
with a
so
third
13.
coming.
with a third coming.
Um,
All right.
so
So 13 X-Men movies. Then you're going to want a creative person to come in with a fresh take, and this might be Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige being like, "Hey, we're a bunch of suits, and sometimes we have good ideas, but if we want this to feel fresh and have like a new energy to it and a new take, we're gonna have to get outside of our own minds here
Yeah.
and find somebody out that has a good idea. So, and I feel like they might hear a pitch and be like, okay, that works, but in our movie, these three things have to happen. Can you have these three things? You have to integrate Deadpool, you have to kill this person and whatever. Like they might have plot points they want in the movie, but as far as like a general take and a feel and a tone, they're going out to creative people, and I think that's the smartest. That's the smartest move.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the ilk that I would like them to do something wholly original.
Same.
Like it's very difficult to do with the X-Men because it's kind of like in TV and animation how you end up with the Simpsons did it.
Yeah.
It's
right.
kind of the same thing with X-Men. Like they've been around since time. Whatever you're thinking, they've probably done at some point.
Yeah, as long as they don't give us the goddamn Phoenix Force for like so long.
Yeah, like
I don't want to see any hint of that thing until some kind of giant team up movie in the 10 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's I guess that was half the problem of the whole thing is like the original X-Men was a pretty unique script. Like it wasn't based on any arcs that I can think of, like off the top.
Right.
X2 was a good chunk of God Loves Man Kills.
Yep.
Which I believe you now understand why I hold that in such high regard.
Oh yeah, it's great.
And then Last Stand, it was like, okay, well, here we go. We're diving into
cobbled together.
Right.
Mess. Yeah.
It's like, it was kind of what the hell was I think the arc was like Gifted maybe. And then Dark
yes,
Phoenix
yeah, from the Astonishing X-Men.
Yeah.
There's like a little bit of that,
Yep.
yeah, but mostly not.
Right. And it's like this
Yeah.
is just a jumbled mess of shit.
Yeah.
View with Drew in the chat said, "I love Kelsey Grammer as Beast," and I don't think anybody will disagree with that. That was just a
Agreed.
cool. Well, especially Beast of the time. Current Beast.
Yeah.
If anyone's following the X-Men books right now.
Oh yeah, he's like
a
he's a villain, isn't he?
All of the original 5 are basically headed towards. Well, some of them make sense.
Okay.
And some of them are but aren't. It's mostly just Beast is Beast. Yeah, right now Iceman is effectively saving the world all the time, but also possibly dying because why not?
Womp womp.
He's being held together by an Inhuman. So
okay,
basically,
this is an Astonishing X-Men. Astonishing Iceman.
Astonishing Iceman. His boyfriend is one of the Inhumans, who's effectively holding him together as a being.
Wow.
And is anchored to a place in Antarctica, and it's actually well done. Like 2 just came out, and I read it, and it was like, okay, this has still got me.
That's the Steve Orlando book,
yes,
right?
Yes, I was going to say written by Camilla's favorite, Steve Orlando.
Local boy. Always got to shout out Steve Orlando.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Kelsey Grammer was inspired casting. I think that there was a little blowback when they announced that when it happened, but I think anyone that was familiar with the cartoon, especially like the way that they had him, the way he was voiced in that cartoon paved the way for it to be perfect casting for Kelsey Grammer. I think if the characterization of him in that cartoon had been different or like edgier,
right,
then it wouldn't have made sense. But that's where that came from, I believe, and I agree. Yes, it was perfect casting for that character. And yeah, I'm always open to a new take. So, yeah, we'll see what the X-Men thing is. I would love if they it would be bold. Because, you know what? Maybe not. I don't know. I was going to say, because we've been so long without seeing Wolverine in a movie,
yep,
it would be bold of them but I would like it. It would be bold of them to not have Wolverine in the first X-Men movie and have the first X-Men movie be just the original 5. You want to do an X-Men adaptation that feels new You base it on the books originally, and you start with the original 5, and maybe give them a movie, give them 2 movies before they disband or whatever, and then Xavier gets the giant size team
Right.
together, and like do it like that, or the second movie, somehow the second movie is that already or whatever, like build it like that, build it up naturally, and then the third movie they're all together. I don't know, who knows? But then I realized they might be able to pull that off because we're going to see Wolverine in Deadpool 3. So we won't be so starved for Wolverine content as we are, currently.
As a Wolverine fan, I'm never
Wolverine fan.
starved for X-Men content or for Wolverine content. There's just
I
so
know.
much out there that they like Wolverine. Or like they always have to either have an ongoing or him being a main part of a team or something. It's like,
But like non-comic readers is what I
Yeah,
guess I was
yeah.
talking about. Of course, there's always plenty of Wolverine content if you're a comic reader,
Right.
but
that'd
people
be
that
like the day they stop Amazing Spider-Man.
yeah, exactly.
But,
Yeah.
So do you have
see.
any? So like, if you want to go original 5, do you think? Do you have any inklings as to any casting that you'd think of?
Oh, no, I think you should do all unknowns.
That would be exactly where I was going to say. Is just
And I think they should be kids. I think they should be young.
Yeah.
They should
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
go
like
more of a
that.
first class route where they
Yep.
were like,
late
I mean,
teens,
they
early
were adults,
20s
but they
type.
were like
Yeah.
playing late teens, early 20s. Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's how it was. That's like the original thing. And then you get another, similar to Spider-Man, like Spider-Man sticks out in the MCU because he's a kid. And that's faithful to the original books, which is great. And that's part of the reason I really like Tom Holland, because he's a kid and he's
Or at
talking
least
to
looks like a
Tony
kid.
Stark and adults. Yeah, exactly. I would like that again because Tom Holland's just going to keep getting older, So you get that in a new way, and all of a sudden there's this like group of young kids that have to talk to Thor or whatever with some kind of authority that they kind of have to prove themselves a little bit more.
Right.
Like it's just little children running around. Go back to school, but
Well, and
you're super powerful, and I review.
well, yeah, and that was kind of if you end up going back and all new X-Men when they brought the 05 back
Yeah.
back into the future, because
Mhm.
time travel and X-Men have to go hand in hand all the time for some reason.
Yeah, of course.
Like when they brought them to the future, it's like you've got these teens dealing with this, like these adult versions of themselves, and you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
is a nice dichotomy, and like there's all sorts of ways you can make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost the opposite now that you're saying that about the casting of what they did with the original X-Men movie, because you went big. You went Patrick Stewart, you went Ian McKellen, you went Jackman, you went Barry, even Famke
Yeah.
Janssen. Like,
Yeah, Halle Berry is in that. Like, that's crazy that
Halle Berry is a her Monroe. Like, what?
yeah. And she wasn't as big then as she got, I think. I mean, she was on the rise for sure. But like that was Hugh Jackman's first role. Now he's an A-lister, but like he was nobody. He was nobody in the film business. He was a Broadway star, but
Oh yeah, because
he was a last minute replacement.
yeah, no, she went from Swordfish that happened, but Monsters Ball was right after that.
Yeah, and she won an Oscar right after. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she went. Geez, X-Men, Monsters Ball, Die Another Day, and then got banged for Catwoman. No matter how bad that was.
Oh man. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Catwoman?
No.
Dude, it's bad.
like makes Fantastic Four look good type bad.
It's right down there with Fantastic Four.
Okay. Then I
Wait,
will
which
continue.
Fantastic Four?
Yes.
Which Fantastic Four is your worst? Is your least favorite Fantastic Four?
Jesus.
Mine is the reboot.
Probably,
the one with Miles Teller.
With the 4 in the logo.
Yeah.
Yep. The Fan 4 stick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fan 4 stick. Yeah. Yep. That's the worst.
Rise of the Silver Surfer wasn't great either. The original one was a decent movie for at least 3/4 of it to like 5/8 of it.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, it was like
if
they landed that ship, it would not have been if it wasn't if the last act of that movie wasn't such a cobbled mess, I don't think it would have gotten panned nearly as much as it did.
For me, the first was good, but it took so long for to get through their origin that they weren't like the Fantastic Four until the very end.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. It's like, and that's part of the problem with a Fantastic Four movies. You had not and the way they've done them so far, like you have to do the origins for all 4 of those characters plus the main bad guy. And
But
then
the
that's a
Fantastic
slog to
Four-
get through, like how all 4 of them are reacting and they're
Yeah.
emotional. Like they're trying to service all these characters, which is like great, but it's hard to do to not feel like we are just spinning our wheels, like blue costumes and start punching, mole men in the face, please.
Do it like Homecoming, where you
Right.
do it like Spider-Man Homecoming, where you just start in and you're in a superhero movie.
Yeah.
And then flashback when you need to fill in the gaps. But like, we don't need to see the whole rocket. We don't need to see the whole incident and whatnot.
Yeah. That's what I want them to do with Fantastic Four, is just have them already there somehow. I don't care how. Just whatever.
Which is funny because if they're going to do an origin on the X-Men, I would almost be more curious to have it be an Xavier-centered, like him going and finding the mutants.
Yes, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Or at least that's like the cold open or something, where he's like going and picking them up. Because like the great thing about that first X-Men movie is that you have 2 audience analog characters. Rogue, who is just discovering her powers and is on the run. She runs into Logan, and both of them are new people showing up at the Institute. So we have 2 characters that can ask questions that give us answers that the audience needs to hear, So like that's what's really smart about that first movie. And it's I feel like it would be kind of hard to not do that again.
Yeah.
Unless they do a thing like you just said, where they show Xavier going and finding them and recruiting them. I think that's a smart idea.
Yeah, I still like that Rogan Wolverine open was like that was a solid way.
So good. Yeah.
Well, and then you go from that to the the Wolverine game that's going to be coming out, and they show that whole like Wolverine in the bar going crazy, and you're like, that's the Wolverine at his apex. Like,
yeah, it's gonna be great. I can't wait for that game.
Speaking of which, complete aside on games that got canceled that you may not know about. KOTOR remake may officially have been dropped. The Knights of the Old
No
Republic.
way.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. Did they say why?
Apparently this week. No, I didn't see anything about why. I think it's been in development hell for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think it might, juice may not be worth the squeeze type thing. But it's not official, but there's smoke, where there's smoke there's fire type things going on around it recently, with Sony kind of dropping some traces of it from the website and stuff.
Oh, bummer.
So I was really looking forward to that. I know you were as well, but
yeah, me too, because I never played the first one, and it's supposed to be great. I don't know the story. I've heard it's supposed to be a good story, and I don't know if there's a way for me to do it in 2023.
And canonically, one of the only other purple lightsabers.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Well, womp womp. I guess I don't get to know what that story is. But anyway, speaking of Star Wars, great segue from Marvel to Star Wars. Following up, apparently, on something we talked about. Was it last week? We talked about Taika Waititi's Star Wars film being dead, or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was whenever he was on that show and spouted, or presenting the award to
to Sean Levy.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked about that.
My brain's spinning like Deadpool guy, whatever his name is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Deadpool guy and other Star Wars guy, maybe, but we haven't heard anything yet. Apparently, that may not be true. Film journalist Jeff Snyder on the Hot Mic podcast said that he didn't really go into it. It was just kind of like an aside. He was talking about how he hadn't followed up on a few Star Wars films in a while, but the one that he keeps hearing about is the Taika one, and that a draft is still expected. It's not dead, was his quote. A draft is expected. It's not dead. So maybe we'll hear more from that now that the writer's strike is over. Like, he wasn't able to even be working on it for the last few months. So it's certainly a reason why we haven't heard anything about it. Now he's able to work on it, so I don't know. Maybe he'll get it done, and we'll at least hear that he turned it in.
Yep.
And then we'll at least hear whether or not it's moving forward. So
Will we though?
I guess we shall see. I don't know. I'm anxious to hear if anything's moving forward at Lucasfilm. Something that I'd be shocked if it doesn't happen. Lucasfilm related. We got a confirmation from Cameron Monahan, voice of and motion capture guy, Cal Kestis himself. We got confirmation that development of a third game in the Jedi Fallen Order series is happening. Monahan was at a Comic-Con over the weekend, I think, or this past week, and said, "We're working on the third. We're in the process of doing it right now. That's a big undertaking, and there have been some conversations so far. Hopefully, when all things are said and done, we'll be able to go in and make something really cool for you guys again." And apparently, as early as March, when Jedi Survivor was getting ready to be released, I don't know if I remember came out, but it was early in the year, I believe, or like midway through. I don't remember when it came out.
Somewhere around there.
Director of both Fallen Order and Survivor, Stig Asmussen, said the following: I always wanted to see this as a trilogy. How can we take Cal and the crew to new places beyond what we were doing in the first game? We had a pretty decent idea of time frame where we wanted Survivor to take place, what the stakes were going to be, and what the tone of the game was going to be, what Cal was going to be up against, and how the crew was going to factor into that. And there's ideas of what we could do beyond that as well. So, the director clearly knows where he wants to go, knows what he wants to have happen in a third game. Cameron Monahan saying that they are working on it. They're having those conversations. Things are being started. And if you play Jedi Survivor, it ends not on a cliffhanger, but kind of like not super satisfactory.
Right. It's in a spot where it's like, okay, this is a good conclusion, but needs more.
Yeah. I mean, it's really an Empire Strikes Back ending.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's an ending that leaves a lot of things open and a lot of like where's Cal gonna go next.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently apparently the crew behind these game series knows where Cal's gonna go next, and they're working on it for us. So
that's a plus.
That's a big plus. All leading up to eventually seeing Cal Kestis in live action in some way or another, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But I also think that after Survivor, seeing Cal Kestis in live action, I almost don't want them to bring him into live action, because if those games are canon, he is the most overpowered character in the history of Star Wars. I know people point fingers at, Rey, she can just do everything, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? She's the the granddaughter, so that's probably why she's very powerful. But also, this dude is like basically flying in Survivor.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. He's pretty overpowered. Because it's a video game. He's got to be overpowered, but that doesn't necessarily translate to a film, Or you'd be like, well, why don't you just do your flying flip things that, you do so easily in the games. Might be a tough transition. Tougher than it seems.
Yeah. Yep. Fun times.
Want to talk some comics?
Sure, we can do that.
Before we do our comic reviews, I had to mention this announcement that I just thought was really cool. Speaking of a character that, I love pointing out when I think there's a character or a franchise or something that we've never talked about on this show. Pretty sure this is definitely one of them. Comic publisher Mad Cave Studios has announced a new Dick Tracy series, written by Alex Segura, Michael Morrissey, with art by Geraldo Borges. Coming out next year, I believe. I think in March. Segura said the following: "This has been a long time coming, and we are all so excited to bring our grounded noir take on the Dick Tracy mythos to life at Mad Cave. Michael and I have loved Dick Tracy, his stellar rogues gallery, and unforgettable supporting cast since we first became aware of the character as kids. It's been a long, winding road to get the rights to publish new stories starring the iconic detective that Geraldo is cooking up. Perfectly invokes the grounded cinematic vibe we are bringing to this origin story." So we're getting an origin story of Dick Tracy. And they released like I don't know if it's cover art or just some kind of artist depiction of the character, which looks great. And made me very interested in this. If they're really doing kind of like a darker, grounded noir take on Dick Tracy, I might be into this. Because I don't know, that movie that came out when I was a kid, I loved that thing. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies that I feel like might be really bad. If I go back to it and watch it as an adult, I might be like, this is terrible. But when I was a kid, I loved it and I have fond memories of it. So I might just want to leave it in my fond memory. But I'm excited about new comics because I feel like Dick Tracy is a perfect comic book character. Perfect for that, for like that medium, I think. So I'm down for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I'm curious what if they stick with the like classic noir, or if they. I mean, we're living Dick Tracy tech with like.
I know,
I have a
right? Yeah,
communicator on my wrist.
that's a good point. Like,
So yeah,
that,
I'll be curious as to what take they have on it, whether it's like classic and still trying to feign like those aren't real things anymore.
yeah,
Or
because that was always something that was like a futuristic idea that somehow made sense in the pages of a comic book that took place in like the 40s.
right. Well, same thing with like
So
a lot of like the classic James Bond stuff. Like all his
yeah,
gadgets are like,
yeah,
oh well, like,
it all just
we
exists
could
now. Yeah,
we could just use the cell phone for that, or
right. Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that'll be in there, but it just won't be. They won't use it as like a hey, look at this cool thing. It'll just be like a thing that he does. Won't necessarily spotlight it. But yeah, I'm down for this. It got me excited. He's more like I like. It's because I like that street level kind of
Yeah, that
detective
pulpy.
work, pulp
Yep.
kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. So um, that was probably the first movie that came out on the heels of the Tim Burton Batman movie being such a huge
Okay. Yeah.
hit. I feel like there's like, it's weird that I think I've said this before on the podcast, but it's strange that the success of Batman '89 seemingly should have inspired a lot of other like comic book adaptations of superheroes, but it really just inspired a bunch of like pulp noir adventures, like characters like Dick Tracy, the Rocketeer,
Phantom.
the Phantom. Yes, exactly. Like we got
Yep.
all those, but like, why didn't we get another Superman movie, or
Right.
why didn't we get a Flash movie or anything like? Just nope.
Yep.
We're just gonna do all these other pulpy heroes, which is fine because I like a lot of those movies too. But
Yeah.
not the Phantom though. That movie's pretty bad. Oh, and the Shadow. The Shadow's another great
Oh, yeah.
example of that
Yep.
too. Yeah. All right,
I'm not
Steve.
gonna lie, I
Comic
still
re-
get the Phantom and the Shadow confused often.
Oh yeah, one's purple, one's black. One reads minds, and one's in the jungle.
Doesn't
Do
mean
you
I
know
don't get it
I've heard several times, enough that I believe that it is real, that initially the Phantom film starring Billy Zane
Yep.
was written as a comedy, but then it changed hands, like it changed directors or changed, I don't know, studios or something, and they didn't rewrite the script, but they filmed it as a drama, as like a straight action movie. They didn't film it as a comedy, and that's why it doesn't work, because they used all the same lines.
Things.
Yeah, like it was supposed to be like more like campy in tone, and they didn't realize that when they were making it, I guess, and it just turned into a bad movie. So
I'm
Yep.
curious how often
Womp womp.
stuff like that happens. It's gotta
Probably
be
more often than we
pretty-
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve, should I go first with my review, or would you like to go? Did you go first last year? Did you go first last year when we were doing comic reviews?
These last year, buddy.
I don't think we were either.
So I can go first quick.
Yeah, you go first, and then I'll close with the big Transformers #1 here.
All right. Yeah, this is 1980s week on the Multiverse Report, because I ended up with Masters of the Universe, Forge of Destiny.
Whoa.
Yeah, by Tim Seeley, Eddie Nunez, Brad Simpson, and World Design. So this is for anyone who has seen the Netflix series. This is apparently a year zero kind of take for the Netflix series, like
Oh,
setting
cool.
up that universe. Um, my fondest memory of He-Man as a child, and by fondest I mean most vibrant, is me breaking my leg jumping off the couch, pretending I was He-Man when I was a small human. Um, my mother to this day
Awesome.
will bring that up repeatedly, like, "Hey, remember when you pretended you were He-Man and broke your leg?" Like, "Yep, yes, I do."
That's amazing.
So yeah, that's my so He-Man was definitely a part of growing up, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's there's a lot of some nice characterization of like He-Man and like the dichotomy with He-Man, Prince Adam, the whole nine there. There's some other external threats that they deal with. And it's a standard, issue 1 setting up larger conflict with Skeletor, who comes in at the Evil Inn, comes in and does something for Skeletor at the end, and it's going to
Yeah.
set this whole thing in motion. Decent art, very very on brand for Masters of the Universe. It kind of looks very Masters of the
Oh, yeah.
Universe.
Yep.
Like they captured the feel of that Netflix show and even a little
Yeah.
of the classic. I always still laugh when they make cognizant and coherent stories out of toys that were literally slapped together from
Yeah,
pieces of other toys to put
I
out
know.
as like
Yep.
the whole
impressive.
thing. Yeah, I mean that they've made this
Yeah.
a thing for this many years is just it's impressive completely.
Yeah.
Overall solid issue of like entertainment. It's a Dark Horse imprint, so you'll be able to find it. And I have too much on my pull to pick up number 2, but if
Yeah.
you're interested in Masters of the Universe and especially that Netflix series, it seems to be like a nice jumping on point.
Nice. Sure. Probably like I think they're making more of that Netflix show too.
I think
So it's probably like
there's
a
another
good
series
tide
or
over
season
until the
coming out.
other ones come out because animation takes a long time.
Yep. Yeah. So
All right, cool.
it's fun.
Nice. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, my book this week is Transformers #1 by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. Russ Wooten is the letterer. Again, Funky Town Comics and Vinyl doing a midnight release of this book Tuesday night, October 3rd from 9 to 12. You can go and get your copy of Transformers #1, a new run, a new story, a new canon for the Transformers comics. I gotta say, I am not, Steve, not since I was, 7 years old have I been a Transformers guy. It hasn't stuck with me the way that other things from my childhood has, like Batman, Star Wars, things like that, superheroes in general. Like, I don't know. I loved Transformers when I was a kid, but they just didn't stick with me. I've never seen a Transformers movie. I think I've read maybe 1 or 2 Transformers comics because my son saw them in the comic store and they were like, "Whoa, trucks that can talk. I want to read that." And I try reading it and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. This is full of lore. This is full of jumble that I don't understand. And to the point where they're so talky that my son is like bored. He's like, I don't get what's going on, Dad. I'm like, yo, buddy, neither do I. Let's stop reading this book. We can
I
look at the
also
cool
cannot follow
pictures of the
this.
trucks fighting,
Yeah.
but neither of us can tell what's going on and we don't understand it. It's just too talky. This book is awesome.
Nice.
This is an awesome book. And this is from somebody that has been straight turned off by Transformers media in recent years. This is great. The art by Daniel Warren Johnson is incredible. The script by Daniel Warren Johnson is really good. It gives you enough time with the human characters in the book to develop a relationship, start some threads going, but also at the same time wastes no time getting into robot vehicles fighting each other.
Right.
The colors are excellent. Mike Spicer crushing it on colors. The drawing is great. The art is great. The script is great. Everything's really good. It feels like alive. Like Daniel Warren Johnson has this style to him that is like a little gritty. It's a little
Okay.
rough around the edges, but it really speaks to me. I
Yeah.
love it very much. So that really helped me feel the energy of these fights, and even like when it shows them like transforming, it's just like it's very kinetic feeling. Um, he really crushes it, and even for someone like me, like they're clearly jumping in. It kind of starts in the middle of a story, at least when we get to the robots fighting.
Mhm.
I'm trying to say without spoiling stuff, like it kind of starts in a way where they have been kind of paused in their like war between the Autobots and the Decepticons, and they're kind of like waking up and realizing, oh, this is still happening, and jumping right back into it. So they're referencing stuff. Now, because it's a new number one, I don't think they're referencing stuff that has happened in the comics in the past. I think they're referencing stuff that we're going to find out about as we continue reading this
Okay.
story, which I think is cool. It's like a Star Wars thing. It's
Yeah.
like, you served my father in the Clone Wars. Oh, what's the Clone Wars?
Right.
Like, and we find out later. That kind of stuff, like alluding to a past that we don't quite know about yet. And there's the other reason I like about it is there's not a ton of characters. There's not a ton of there's like 3 Decepticons and like 3 Autobots, and that's it.
Okay.
And I assume those numbers will grow, but like keeping it small like that kind of raises the stakes quite a bit, because you don't have just armies versus armies. You're like, they're trying to figure out, they have to retreat and figure out how to keep their numbers at where they are, because they're so low and they don't know where they are. They've never been to Earth before. They're looking at humans being like, what are these things? That kind of stuff. So it's a really good jumping on point. If you've never read a Transformers book before, but maybe you like the movies, or you like the show, or you like the old school show and the old classic Transformers film, this is a great jumping on point, I think. It definitely seems like they know where they're going and they have an interesting story to tell. I would be interested to read another issue of this. And again, that's coming from somebody who's just been absent from Transformers media and lore for a very long time, for decades. So I fully endorse the new Transformers #1 by one of my favorite comic book creators, Daniel Warren Johnson, and his colorist, Mike Spicer. Again, Russ Wooten on letters. This is a book from Image. And hey, one more time, Funky Town Comics and Vinyl, midnight release of this book, 9 o'clock, October 3rd. Go and get Transformers #1. They have a plethora of variant covers, all gorgeous. This is the main, this is the A cover right here. Great, badass shot of Optimus Prime there.
Now, Optimus Prime, do you
really good.
inherently, you almost have to mentally read him as Peter Cullen's voice for Optimus Prime?
Yeah, I think I probably do still. Again, like it's been a really long time since I've ingested any Transformers thing that I enjoyed.
Right.
But yes, I do kind of still feel that similar voice in my brain, because that's kind of burned into me.
So when they
sure.
rebooted, when they started the movies, I think I saw the first movie. Like that might be the only of the modern Transformers.
I've seen parts of the first movie, but I didn't love it.
I might have like watched them in a fever dream when sick one day or something, and like needed things to watch. But like not consciously sat down and watched them. But when Optimus Prime showed up in that, and it was the same voice, and I was like,
right.
What just happened?
Whoa.
Like, I just went back in time 20 years. Okay, cool.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's good, and it's really unexpected. Like I said, like the fact that there's only a few of each of them, each of the sides.
Yep.
And there's some reasons for that, and I won't say, I won't spoil anything, but like it's surprising, even for somebody like me who's not like invested. I was like, what? 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 Really? No. Like, so yeah, Transformers #1. Pick it up this week, Funky Town Comics and Vinyl. They got a bunch of copies of it for you. Waiting.
For you, the viewer.
That's right. If you can't make it to the midnight release, you can go the following day, Wednesday, which would be New Comic Book Day.
Yeah, they might even have it the day after that too.
My guess is that they will. I believe they have a lot of copies of it. So, because they're really hyping this midnight release on the 3rd. So,
yeah.
Unless it's an absolute packed madhouse on the 3rd, which I hope it is. My guess is that they will still have some copies available the following day.
There you go.
What else will you be able to find in your local comic book store this coming Wednesday? 007 for King and Country number 5. It's interesting now that they have to say King and Country instead of Queen and Country.
Oh yeah.
Or like,
Hmm.
like I'm
Forgot
sure in the
about
next whatever the next James Bond movie is, they're gonna have to say like on His Majesty's Secret Service
Right.
instead of Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's weird. Never said that before. Because it's a king now instead of a queen.
Yeah.
Weird.
We should.
Anyway.
we should talk to your brother-in-law and see how he feels about this.
Yeah, for sure. Batman 138, Birds of Prey number 2, Blue Beetle number 2, Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer number 3, Captain Marvel Dark Tempest number 4, Darkwing Duck number 9, DC's Ghouls Just Want to Have Fun one shot. I think that's their annual Halloween anthology one shot.
That title is so horrible that I love it.
Yeah, I agree. Devil That Wears My Face number 1.
That
Not
title
sure what that is, but
so horrible that it seems intriguing.
horrifying.
Yeah.
Welcome to spooky season for sure. Doctor Strange number 8, Fantastic Four number 12, Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville number 2, Ghost Rider Annual number 1, Godzilla Here There Be Dragon number 4,
Still
Immortal X-Men 16. Gotta say it like a pirate or it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing number 11, My Little Pony Camp Big Hoof number 3, Peacemaker Tries Hard number 6, Poison Ivy number 15, Shazam number 4, Star Trek Defiant number 8, Star Trek Halloween number 1. I believe that is a Halloween one shot, like holodeck, HOLO, holodeck. I don't know how to.
Yes, but I'm
pronunciation.
just so
Clearly a
I'm-
pun.
Yeah, I'm 100% just picturing Gene and Dean Ween on the holodeck. Like it's just
Perfect.
a cartoon. It's a comic about them.
About them being beamed up to the Enterprise.
100%.
I hope that's what it is. I'm sure that it's not, but I hope it is. Star Wars Bounty Hunters number 39, Star Wars Darth Vader number 39, Transformers number 1, the aforementioned, Singing It from the Hilltops. Check it out, it's great. Vampirella Dead Flowers number 1, X-Force number 45, X-Men number 27. Steve, reading anything this week? Pulling any of these books?
Well,
What's going on in your
outside of
comic
the-
life?
outside of the X stuff, yeah, I think I'm only like 4 or 5 books behind, so that's I'm
Nice.
somehow keeping up with Fall of X. Been surprisingly good, I think, and I was talking to Jesse about it down at the shop this week that a lot of feedback on that Fall of X has been pretty solid so far, and like nobody's really there's a lot of people that are pulling X books there, and it doesn't seem like there's anybody complaining about it, so that's a good
good.
thing. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's
Nice.
my comic reading is just all X-Men all the time right now.
Nice. I made a big move this past week, Steve. And it was hard for me to say these words to Jesse at Monkeytown Comics. But I removed both Batman and Nightwing from my pull list.
Wow.
I know, it hurts to say them even now. It hurts to admit that. It hurts to, it's a dagger in my own heart. But loved the Chip Zdarsky Batman run. And the Gotham War stuff is interesting, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's interesting enough to keep me holding on. And the Nightwing is still great. It still looks great. It still looks beautiful. I still am interested in it. And I just read the most recent one and I was like, how much longer am I going to do this?
Right.
Like, it's just like I said that to Jesse and he said, I think he made a good point. I think you and I are similar where he's like, I used to pick up every copy of whatever book I was into. I felt like I needed to have the entire run. I needed to know what was happening. And now as I get older, I'm just like a 1 through 6 guy. Like, give me an arc or give me 2 arcs and then I'm out. And I kind of agree. Like, it's just, it's like, it just goes on forever. And like that, of course it does. Because comics do, and they will, and that's what it is. And there will be a time in my life when I add both those books back to my pull list, but I gotta step out. I'm at a point right now where I'm trying to buy less single issues, kind of focus back on like trades and graphic novels. So, you know, if the rest of the Zdarsky run turns out to be great, I'll pick it up as a collected edition, or I'll pick up the trade.
Yep.
Whatever. So
Yeah, that's with Fall of X. That's kind of I was very much in the vein where you were, where I was down to like I'm pulling Saturday morning cartoons for my son and Scooby Doo.
yeah,
And
right.
then I was like, you know what? Got to
Here we
scratch
go.
the X-Men itch for a bit, and then as soon as this is done, like, I mean, the way they always work it, you could hypothetically still pull X books at that point because there'll be like one or two of them before it
Yeah.
balloons into 7,000 again.
Right.
But yeah, it's all cyclical, man, and
Yep.
it's
Yep.
just the nature of the beast.
I know. But I will say that I'm very excited to get the final issue, 6th issue of Peacemaker Tries Hard, which has been an absolute delight for me from beginning to end. Every issue I laugh out loud at every issue. It's just the best. It's the best. If you like that character, if you like that show, wait till this is in a collected edition and get it and read it. It's so funny.
Yep.
It's so great. It just, like, I don't know if James Gunn is reading this book, but he should be, because whoever is, like, I can't remember the creative team right now off the top of my head, but they are nailing the tone of his show and his character so hard that I hope he reads it and I hope he enjoys it. And anyone else who likes that character or that show, consider picking it up when it comes out in a trade. It's so good and so funny and crazy violent at the same time. It's awesome.
That is Kyle Stark, Steve Pugh, and Jordy Belair on that book.
Yes. Yep.
Also in the chat, Brian 100% agrees with you that Gotham War is far from the top of the anything going on.
I like the conceit of it. I like the idea of it quite a bit. I thought it was a really cool idea. And I don't know. I feel like I like the Catwoman side of it more than I like the Batman side of it. The Catwoman side's pretty interesting, and the Batman side's like, I don't care about his. They keep going back to this Batman of Zur-En-Arrh thing, that it's like a mental block that Bruce Wayne created for himself in his brain. It's very complicated, but it's like, it's just a weird thing. Like, I know it exists in canon, but I'm not interested enough in it.
Thing on me, man.
What?
I'm an X-Men fan. You can't pull the it's very complicated on me.
Okay. I was really saying, I was not pulling on you as much as I was pulling on our listeners, our watchers. But it's basically like Bruce Wayne created an alternate, like a split personality for himself. Like, knowing that if he ever like becomes mind controlled or loses his way or whatever, he can like say like a code word and flip into this other, more brutal, more honest, more like less willing to obey the laws of Gotham City or whatever. Like you got to get something done, you're flipping into this thing, and it's like a last resort. But this idea came up in like the 50s or 60s, and so the costume is insane. It's like bright purple and bright yellow and bright red and stuff. It's like really strange. Yeah. And Zdarsky brought it back, but also it was either Tinian or King also did a run with that Batman or referenced it or something like that. So I was just like, we're doing this again. Come on. And then I thought it was dead, and then it came back again in the Gotham War stuff. And I was like, okay, I think that was the final straw for me. I was like, I don't care about this arc, so I'm out. Right. What I did put on my pull list, and I will highly endorse, because I finally read issue 1 of it this past week, and issue 2 comes out this week, is the new Birds of Prey. Kelly Thompson is the writer. It is awesome. Just the first book, so good. It looks great.
Nice.
Super kinetic, great. The team is really cool. The writing is really good. It spends the whole time. The first issue is Black Canary putting the team together, recruiting everybody for a mission. You don't know what the mission is. They keep talking about how it's really dangerous. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. And then in the last panel of the first book, they tell you what it is.
Yep.
And basically, Black Canary years ago during the Gail Simone run adopted as like a sister. Kind of first it was a daughter. Now they just have a sister. Like a ninja, I think, was possibly trained by the League of Assassins. I'm not sure where she came from. Her name is Sin. And we know, like they mentioned throughout the book, that like we have to, like, Sin is in trouble. We have to go rescue her. Sin is in trouble. We have to go rescue her. Sin is in trouble. We don't know why. Don't know why. Don't know why. The very last panel of issue 1, Black Canary finally tells the team that Sin is being held prisoner on Themyscira, and they have to go and defeat all of the Amazons and rescue her from
Okay.
the Amazons. And I was just
Yeah.
like, whoa, how is that going to happen? I don't know, but dying to see the rest of it. And that coupled with I wish I'd show you an amazing double page splash of a fight scene with Batgirl and Black Canary if I had it in front of me.
Nice.
It's just so good. The art is like just alive and kinetic and great, and I thought it was excellent. And it's a title that I've loved in the past, so I'm glad that it's like back
Right
and
there,
you know,
yeah.
firing on all cylinders. Yeah, so highly recommend the new Birds of Prey.
Nice. Well,
And other than that,
we do have one
might be
shot.
all. We have a one shot.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Throwing it in here.
Throwing it in because it's not on our rundown. I don't know
Nah.
if you saw
What did I miss?
earlier this week, but the Marvels movie coming out in a bit has officially set records in the MCU for
The shortest.
runtime at 105
We did talk.
minutes.
That's right. We did talk about this when it was rumored, but then
Yeah.
this is the confirmation that it's like an hour and 45 minutes long.
Yep.
Or something, right?
So that's either really good or really bad.
You know what? I'm gonna reiterate. I think it's good. I'm very
yeah.
excited to see an hour and 45 Marvel movie that
100%.
you know. I am getting real weary of the 2 hour and 45 minute movie that does not need to be that long.
I'm happy
at
to see
all.
an hour 45 any movie. It's not even just
Anything.
a Marvel problem. It's an everything
Yep.
problem. It's like things
Yep.
don't have to be 2.5 hours long every time.
They don't. You can't get it done in an hour and 45 minutes. I don't want to see it. That's not always true, but it's true right now in this very moment.
Yep.
Of course, there's great movies that are The Batman. I love that movie. It's 3 hours long. Great. Sure.
Oppenheimer, 3 hours long.
Wonderful film. But you know what? They don't always have to be that way.
Right.
They don't. They seldom do.
A happy, campy, fun romp with 3 different energy-powered characters doesn't need to be 3 hours long. Hour 45 is
like
great.
I'm saying, I guess I'm very excited coming off what I feel like was a slog of, with the exception of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, a slog of Marvel movies that have been, in my opinion, way too long
Mhm.
and not really warranting that much of a, like Ant-Man 3, Ant-Man the Quantumania, that could have been an hour and 45 minutes, I think. If you just tear a bunch of stuff out there that you don't need, so much that you didn't need in that movie. And it would have been way better. It would have been way better.
It's the standard thing we've been talking about with all these movies, though, is they either need to, 1.5 times their runtime and split it into 2 movies, or cut it in half and just chop.
Yeah. Or don't did going back to the Quantumania example, did Bill Murray need to be in that movie? He was in one scene of that movie.
Right.
He's not like a big character. He's not continuing. Did you write that just so you could get Bill Murray in your movie?
Right. Nobody's going to see that just because Bill Murray shows up in it for 2 seconds.
I know. You didn't need that at all. It was a waste of time. It would have been a way simpler way to get those characters down there, get them fighting Kang, and get them out. Whatever.
Mhm.
That's it. I don't need all this padding to make it a big. Not every movie is a big event movie. Some movies are just fun action movies.
And that's what
an
they're
hour
going
and
for.
45-minute movie.
Yep.
An hour and 45-minute movie is going to be way more likely for me to watch it a second time.
Yeah.
Because I look at, I had fun. Even Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I thought was incredible. It's a long movie. That's a 2:45 movie.
Yeah.
But again, I could argue that's like the end of a trilogy. It's like the culmination of something. So I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. And it was great. It was great. I felt that warranted that time frame.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched it again because it's super long. And I'm like, okay, well, I could watch that, or I could watch one super short movie and go to bed before midnight. So
yeah. That sounds right.
Bed before midnight, just like we're trying to do tonight by wrapping this up around 11 o'clock. I got nothing else. Steve, you got anything else? Or is there anything else in the chat? Anything else we should address?
No, I think we're about there.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for anyone in the chat. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you watching us live and chiming in with your stuff.
Absolutely.
Nice to hear from you. Yeah. Other than that, yeah. I'll say one more time. midnight release of Transformers #1, October 3rd, 9 p.m. at Monkeytown Comics and Vinyl. Steve and I will be there, or at least I will be. Sorry, I can't speak for Steve. I'm planning on going after Steve and I wrap up our Ahsoka live reaction. So you can check us out here on this YouTube page for that, or you can just listen the next day. But we'll be talking Ahsoka season finale with our friends Adam Karki and Matt Paseda. And then I'll be headed over to Funkytown Comic and Vinyl for the midnight release of Transformers #1. And until then, that's all I got. You got anything else, Steve?
No, that's that about wraps it up. I'd say feel free to check us out on all our socials, the Multiverse Report. Feel free to our Instagram, as we mentioned, has been active lately. We're on Blue Sky as Multiverse Report. I don't even know if either of us have posted anything, but we're there.
There's not much there yet, but we'll get it going.
Anything to abandon the sinking Titanic that is. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or YouTube or wherever you're watching or listening to this. Really helps the algorithm be tricked into feeding us more people watching us, and it's a perpetual cycle. So other than that, I think that covers it.
All right, so we will see you on Tuesday evening for a live reaction to the Ahsoka series finale. And until then, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.